You know, marketers spend absolute fortunes on ad copy, but the decision to leave your website, that's almost always made in a ruthless 3-second window. So what are the 3 non-negotiable failures that cause people to leave so fast? And how do we stop them? This right here is the great paradox of digital marketing. We are obsessed with what our websites say, the content, the offer, the beautifully crafted copy. But we're often blind to a much faster, more brutal truth. The battle is won or lost before a user ever truly reads a single word. It's a battle for the first 3 seconds of their attention.
Just let that sink in for a moment. 3 seconds. It's a blink, it's a heartbeat, and in that tiny sliver of time, a really complex cognitive test is happening inside your user's brain. It's a test that determines whether all the money you spent getting them to your site was a brilliant investment or a complete waste. We assume the content matters most, but that's an illusion. The real fight isn't for their wallet. It's for the first 3 seconds of their attention.
So how do we master this 3-second window? Well, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start by looking at this paradox and the attention crisis that made this rule so powerful. Then we'll dive into the 3-part test every user's brain runs, the psychology behind why it works, and a practical framework to make sure you pass. And finally, we'll get to the core insight that honestly will change how you think about web design forever.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of this paradox. We spend all this money bringing people to our digital doorstep, yet most of them are turned away by a gatekeeper we can't even see. And it's not the price, it's not the product features, it's this invisible wall of friction that just appears in the first 3 seconds. This is where the battle is really won or lost, in a rapid, subconscious assessment that happens long before your marketing message is ever actually read.
So what is it? What's the number one reason people leave? It's not your offer, it's not your pricing, it's not even your competition. The single biggest killer of conversion is high cognitive load. It's the mental effort that's required to understand a confusing or cluttered or just an unclear page. When a user lands and their brain has to work too hard to figure out what's going on, an ancient instinctive self-preservation trigger gets pulled, and that trigger is the back button. Their brain is just trying to conserve its most precious resources, time and energy.
Now, this 3-second rule isn't just some arbitrary benchmark someone made up. No, it's a direct consequence of a modern crisis that changed absolutely everything. It's what psychologists call a heuristic, a mental shortcut that our brains develop to survive a radical shift in how we consume information. It's a defense mechanism born out of sheer necessity. This timeline shows you exactly how we got here. In the early days of the web, people were patient. They were sitting at desktops. The whole experience was kind of a novelty. But then came the mobile shift. And suddenly we were browsing on these tiny screens, on the go, with endless distractions all competing for our focus. Our attention spans didn't just shrink, they shattered. This created a crisis of extreme attention scarcity. And in this high-pressure environment, the 3-second rule emerged, not as a best practice, but as a ruthless standard for survival. If your site couldn't provide instant validation, it was dead on arrival. And this right here illustrates the radical shift in thinking that we have to make. We have to stop believing that conversion starts with our sales pitch. It just doesn't. Conversion begins with the successful elimination of psychological friction within that initial 3-second window. The goal isn't to sell. The goal is to earn the next 3 seconds. By winning this first silent battle, we maximize the return on every single dollar we spent getting that traffic in the first place.
All right, so how do we survive this test? To understand that, we have to look under the hood at the engine of this decision-making process. The core mechanism is a 3-stage diagnostic test. Think of it like a series of checkpoints a user's brain runs through, one after the other, at lightning speed. And here's the crucial part. If you fail at any single one of these stages, it's catastrophic failure for you, an immediate bounce. Here are the 3 stages. In the very first second, the brain asks, is this relevant? Does what I'm seeing right now match the ad or the link I just clicked? In the second second, it asks, is this clear? Can I get the point of this page without having to think about it? That's the cognitive clarity test. And in the third second, it asks, can I trust this? Does this site look professional, secure, and legitimate? Relevance, clarity, trust. Pass all 3, you've earned their attention. Fail even 1, and they're gone. So let's break these down. Relevance demands a perfect message match. Your headline has to mirror the ad copy that brought the user here. No confusion.
Clarity requires a powerful visual hierarchy that guides the eye instantly, from the headline to the benefit to the call to action, leaving zero room for doubt. And trust? Well, that's built on nonverbal signals, a fast-loading page and clean, professional design that tells the brain, hey, this is a safe, competent place. Any friction here immediately triggers skepticism.
Okay, so we have the three-part test. But why does our brain operate with such brutal efficiency? This isn't just some marketing gimmick. The 3-second rule is so powerful because it taps into deep-seated universal psychological triggers related to efficiency and self-preservation. We are literally hardwired to behave this way.
This comparison really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have cognitive fluency. This is when a page is simple, clear, easy to process. To our brains, fluency signals safety, competence, and value. It feels good, it feels effortless, so the user stays. On the other side is its evil twin, cognitive load. This is a state of confusion, ambiguity, clutter. It requires high mental effort, which the brain registers as a threat, a potential waste of precious energy, and its defense mechanism against that threat, an instinctive exit.
What's driving this escape from cognitive load is a powerful psychological bias called loss aversion. We are fundamentally wired to feel the pain of a loss about twice as much as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. And in this context, the user's most valuable, non-renewable resource is their time. A confusing website doesn't just annoy them, it triggers a deep instinctive fear of wasting that time. Hitting the back button is a defensive move to prevent that loss before it ever happens. And finally, there is the skepticism heuristic. Our brains are incredible pattern recognition machines. Over years of browsing, they've learned to associate certain patterns with risk. A website that loads slowly, has a broken design, or just looks unprofessional instantly matches the pattern of an untrustworthy, low quality, or even unsafe source. This isn't a conscious, reasoned decision. It's an automatic, subconscious red flag. It connects the dots. This looks confusing, which means it might waste my time, and it also looks untrustworthy, so the risk just isn't worth it. The brain's defense system engages and triggers a bounce before you ever get a chance to prove it wrong. So, understanding the psychology is one thing, applying it is another. Let's shift from theory to practice. The good news is there's a clear, actionable framework for mastering the 3-second rule and engineering your pages for success from the very first click, turning that defensive user into an engaged one. It really comes down to these 3 core pillars of execution. First, you have to enforce instant relevance through an unbreakable message match. Second, you have to optimize your visual hierarchy to guide the eye and eliminate every single ounce of confusion. And third, you must ruthlessly, and I mean ruthlessly, audit your technical speed. These aren't suggestions, they are the non-negotiable rules for winning the 3-second game.
So the crucial point for the first 2 principles is this: create zero cognitive dissonance. When a user clicks an ad that promises 50% off blue widgets, the headline on your landing page has to scream 50% off blue widgets. That's message match. It's an immediate psychological win that confirms they are in the right place, creating a feeling of relief. Then your design has to immediately take their eye on a journey, from that powerful headline to a concise benefit statement to a clear call to action. Don't make them think, guide them.
And finally, we come to the most unforgiving principle. Your page has to load completely in under 2 seconds. Let me be perfectly clear. Page speed is not a feature. It is not a nice to have. It is the single most powerful trust signal you can send. A slow page is an immediate, catastrophic failure of the trust test. It's the digital equivalent of a broken front door. It signals a lack of care, a lack of professionalism, and it will trigger that reflexive bounce every single time.
So, as we bring all this together, what's the one core insight to take away from this whole thing? It's about understanding where the real battle for online success is truly fought and won. And it's not where most people think it is. It's not about features or benefits or pricing. Not at first. Success is earned in that initial 3-second window, and the battle fought there is purely psychological. It is the cold, hard logic of high-speed system design, applied directly to this profound and very predictable human impulse for efficiency and the preservation of time. Your user is making a defensive move against wasted energy, and your job is to prove instantly that you are not a threat to their time.
So how do you do it? How do you bypass that powerful skeptical filter that every single user arrives with? You do it by anticipating their defensive posture. You bypass the filter by delivering instant relevance, absolute cognitive clarity, and undeniable trust signals in those opening moments. By doing this, you successfully disarm their skepticism and you earn their permission to proceed to your actual content instead of becoming another casualty of the back button. And that really is the final thought. We often think of marketing as pushing people through a funnel, but the best marketing does the exact opposite. It pulls people toward value. It works because it respects their time and their cognitive energy, earning their attention in that critical, ruthless 3-second window before they ever even have a chance to leave.